فادعوه بها وذروا الذين يلحدون في أسمائه سيجزون ما كانوا يعملون.
So that's regards to that verse. We can now move on to the next name, Al-Hakeem, the All-Wise. He is the one to whom belongs the highest wisdom, the one who is all-wise in his creating and commanding, who perfected everything he created. And who is better than Allah in judgment for a people who have found faith? Therefore, he has created nothing out of mere frivolity, and he has legislated nothing that is vain and of no use. The one to whom belongs wisdom in the beginning and the end. He has free areas of ruling which nothing else has a share in. He rules between his servants with respect to his law, his decree, and his recompense. These are three areas which we've spoken about before. Wisdom is to place something in its correct place. For those who believe not in the hereafter is an evil description, and for Allah is the highest description. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. It is He who is the only God worshipped in the heaven and on earth, and He is the All-Wise, the All-Knowing. By the way, that last verse proves that the name of Allah has a meaning. The name of Allah has a meaning. If you look at it, He is the only true, only God worshipped. Now here in the Arabic, that He is the Ilah, and He is Allah. He is Allah in the heavens, and He is that Allah on earth. Does Allah exist on earth? Of course not. So what does it mean? He is the Ilah, meaning He is the one who is worshipped upon the earth. So what does Allah mean? The one who is worshipped. Okay, Al-Hakeem, there are other names like similar to this, such as Al-Hakim, but when it's used, Allah uses Al-Hakim in the Quran, it's usually in the plural form. Okay? Al-Hakimin, Ahkam Al-Hakimin, Al-Hakeem and Al-Hakam as well. Al-Hakam, so we have three names that are very similar: Hakam, Hakim, and Hakeem. As for the name Hakeem, it occurs in the Quran 49 times. Hakeem occurs in the Quran 49 times. And the word Hakeem is derived from the root word Hakama. Ha, Kaf, and Mim. Hakama, we derive a very well-known word that we all know probably, Hukum. How do we usually translate Hukum? Ruling. Now, let's just look at how linguistically it is used. Hakama literally means to al-mana, we say al-mana, to restrict someone or to deny something to someone. But in many cases is to restrict and to control. That's why the hijam or the reins of an animal, in Arabic we call it a hakama. Why? It's because it's through those reins that you control and you can restrain the animal. A judge, one of the names of a judge in Arabic is Qadi, but another name is Hakim. A judge or a ruler is called Hakim. Why? He legislates laws that restrict people and confine people to certain acts that they can or cannot do. And also a judge is called that because they say لأنه يمنع الخصمين من التظالم, because he is someone who, the judge, he prevents opposing parties from being unjust to one another. That's the whole point of a judge. Why do you go to a judge? To solve a dispute, isn't it? And when does a dispute arise? When someone has wronged somebody else. So the judge, what he does, he prevents people from wronging one another, and he establishes justice. And that's why the definition, therefore, of hikmah, or of hikmah is wisdom. Wisdom is derived from the same root of hakama. وَضْعُ الْأَشْيَاءِ فِي مَوْضِعِهَا, is to place matters in their correct places. And that's what the author rahimahullah said, wisdom is to place something in its correct place. That's how we define wisdom. To place something out of its correct place, that is what we refer to as dhulm, injustice. That's how we define injustice. Injustice is when you place something in its wrong place. So opposite of hikmah is a dhulm. Okay? Now, what is placing something in its correct place? What has that to do with being a judge, for example? You can probably see this, isn't it? I mean, a judge, he has to make sure he passes a correct judgment. If he passes the wrong judgment, he's given a judgment but put it in its wrong place, then he's failed his purpose as being a judge, a hakim. Okay? Likewise, if you're trying to control a horse with its reins, and you pull at the wrong time, what could happen? Okay, you'll fall over. Okay, if you're an inexperienced horse rider, you don't know how to. I remember once I rode a horse, without ever being taught how to ride a horse, and I was a bit silly because I asked for a crazy horse as well, and so I said, "Give me the Majnoon one." And so he gave me the horse. Subhanallah. And this horse, I don't know, I think it was on steroids or something. And he just shot off into the desert. I didn't know how to control it. So I started pulling here and pulling there, and I fell off. And I hurt myself quite badly. So, knowing when to pull the rein is extremely important. Without that, you're going to make a big mistake. So what is wisdom? To place something in its right place. A common misunderstanding of people when it comes to wisdom, many people, when you think of wisdom, you associate with wisdom pacifism. To be passive. Brother, have wisdom. Don't speak. Don't say this. Don't do. Similar to sabr. When someone tells you have sabr, what they think that means is don't do anything, just sit back. So they say the ummah is going through a calamity. We are being slaughtered left, right, and and then people they say, Ya akhi, have sabr. And the person will turn around and say, Ya akhi, how can you tell me to have sabr when this is happening around the world? Sabr doesn't mean that you become docile and you just sit there and don't do anything. Likewise, wisdom doesn't mean that. Wisdom means to place something in its correct place. So if the situation dictates that you are silent, be silent. If the situation dictates that you need to speak, you have to speak. So for example, if someone's committing evil in front of you and you can change it, you have the ability to change it. To keep silent is not wisdom. That's the opposite of wisdom. But if maybe trying to change that evil will lead to a greater evil, okay, then maybe speaking out at that time is not the appropriate time to speak. Rather employ a different means if possible. That's wisdom. Okay? And likewise, sabr doesn't mean that you just sit there, don't do anything. Sabr means you restrain yourself from doing that which is haram. Self-restraint. That's the problem. Sabr in English, you translate it as patience. Patience is usually understood as just withholding and not doing anything. No, sabr in Arabic it means al-habs al-nafs. It means to restrain yourself from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like. And that could sometimes, sabr therefore could be a proactive thing. Sabr is proactive. You have to be doing something whilst having sabr. So if someone says we need to have sabr, even though the ummah is going through a calamity, you say yes. You need to have sabr. We need to have sabr. The Muslims in Syria need to have sabr. The Muslims in Palestine need to have sabr. That doesn't mean just sit back and not do anything. They need to have a proactive form of sabr. So, hikmah, therefore, when we say Allah is Hakeem, this therefore means that Allah, He places everything in its correct place. In what areas does Allah place things in its correct place? The author mentioned them here. He has 3 areas of ruling, 3 areas of His wisdom that no one else is sharing. Number 1, He rules between His servants with respect to His law. So His law, His hukum, is a manifestation of His hikmah. Now the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala haven't been placed simply as a test, not just as a test, but as a mercy as well. So many people, they look at the Sharia and they see the Sharia as a code of do's and don'ts. And the only reason why we have these do's and don'ts is simply as a test. No, but there's great wisdom there. Because Allah knows that these rulings, they are best for mankind. They actually suit mankind. Allah legislates for maslahah. Allah legislates for the benefit and the welfare of mankind. That's what we mean when we say Allah is Hakeem. He legislates rulings that are best for us. If we don't understand the wisdom behind the ruling, we don't start accusing the text itself, the rule itself. We accuse our deficient understanding. That's why Allah says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالُ. Allah has legislated fighting upon you, though what? It is disliked to you. Perhaps you like something, but it is bad for you. Perhaps you dislike something, but it is good for you. Allah يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah knows, but you do not know. This is Surah Baqarah, I think about 200, verse 217, near there. So therefore, the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala suit the needs of man. And it's for this reason we cannot choose another ruling, even though we might think another ruling makes sense. And this is the problem we are faced with today in this society. Because we are living in a different civilization and a different way of life, an Islamic way of life, we are bombarded with contradictions and conflicts in terms of understanding of matters, for example, rights of women. Okay? A Westerner or a non-Muslim will see that, for example, there are different rulings with regards to women, the way we treat women in Islam. They might not like that, but we say, look, Allah is the best decider. Allah knows what is best for us. And this is why I always say, whenever you are confronted with a non-Muslim and they challenge you on Islamic rules, don't just try and justify the Islamic rule. This is the major problem. We become very defensive and we say, look, well, there's benefit in this ruling from this angle. Okay? Rather say to them, look, this ruling, it comes from our Creator, from your Creator. You don't have a problem with Islam, you actually have a problem with the ruling of the Creator of the heavens and the earth. What will they say? That's your understanding. That's what you think God says. And this is where this is where he begins to control the discussion. He says, well, then this is the issue at hand then. Because at the end of the day, as a believer, I don't adopt these laws because they all suddenly make sense to me. I believe in these laws because I believe they're the word of God. So, if we want to come to a conclusion about this particular matter of debate, whether it's the hijab or segregation or hudud or what have you, let's discuss whether this book is the word of Allah. Because if it is the word of Allah, you have no right to challenge the decision of Allah, isn't it? I'm sure they will all agree on that premise. That if you say to them, look, if this Quran is the word of Allah, do you have a right to go against the decision of your Creator? Surely they will all say, we can't go against the decision of the one who created us. And that would be foolish for anyone to say that. And that's how we should control the discussion. The problem with us Muslims, we are always at the receiving end. We should receive all the questions. We receive all the questions, and so we end up becoming very defensive, and we've been, put into a tight corner, and we become therefore very apologetic in our stance. What we need to be is stronger. I'm not saying we go and start foaming at the mouths and shouting and screaming. No, but just you control the discourse. That's what I'm saying. You control the discourse. Don't allow other people to control the discourse. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-An'am, verse 140, أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ أَبْتَغِي حَكَمًا. How can should I choose other than Allah as a judge? And who is better in judgment than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? For those people who truly have knowledge. There is no one better in judgment. And this is why it is not permissible for any person to contradict the ruling of Allah. To Allah belongs al-hukm. In Surah Al-Qasas verse 88, Allah says, لَهُ الْحُكْمُ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. To him belongs the commandment, and to him you shall all return. That means to him belongs the commandment in all these three affairs. In areas of judgment, in law, in areas of his decree, meaning in what he decrees in terms of life, qada and qadr, and recompense, i.e., who will go to paradise and who will go to the hellfire. These three things belong to Allah alone, nobody else. And therefore, the last two are more or less agreed upon. The first issue is there where there is more controversy today. The issue of the hakimiyyah of Allah, or Allah's right to legislate. If you understand what we mean by hikmah and hukum, then we will understand that in these verses that I've quoted, there are many verses like this, the command belongs to Allah alone. Therefore, matters of judgment in terms of positions of authority, they belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The halal and haram belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now here, this in terms of legislation, there's something that we find many people unaware of. When it comes to legislation, not everything that is legislated goes against the hakimiyyah of Allah. There are certain things that clearly go against Allah's hakimiyyah, His right to passing judgment. For example, if someone starts allowing the selling of alcohol, or you allow riba, interest, this is clearly going against the hakimiyyah of Allah. But if someone, for example, wants to set up some administrative laws, like for example the traffic lights, has a person committed shirk if he has legislated laws with regards to traffic? Some people today say yes. Okay? This is not shirk. Shirk is when you directly challenge the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore there's no harm, okay, in legislating. Even in Islamic State, we will have traffic laws. Don't know how it will be implemented, but we look at the state of Muslim countries today. But we will have traffic laws, and who invented these laws? They weren't found in the Quran and Sunnah. These are administrative laws. People can, have administrative laws. No problem in that. There's no shirk in that. Anyway, I don't want to open this can of worms. I know there'll be many other issues, so we'll move on briefly, inshallah. Now, the effects of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakeem. Firstly, we've already made note of this, so that the ruling therefore belongs to Allah. Ruling belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. No one has a right to rule other than the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يُشْرِكُ فِي حُكْمِهِ أَحَدٌ, as Allah mentions in Surah Al-Kahf, verse 26, and no one can share in the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In al-hukmu illa lillah, verily the ruling belongs none except to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned in a number of places in the Quran, Surah Yusuf, verse 40 and 67, Surah Al-An'am, verse 57. Also, another important benefit, that hikmah, it's a quality that Allah He gives to some of His devout servants. Hikmah, wisdom, is something that Allah gives to His devout servants. يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah He gives wisdom to whoever He wishes. وَمَنْ يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. And whoever Allah gives wisdom to, indeed Allah has given him great deal of good. This is in chapter 2, verse 269. And what do we mean by a person having hikmah? Obviously this means placing things in the correct place, but this also implies that the person, his statements, his beliefs, his actions always fall in accordance with the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wisdom doesn't just mean saying words in a very smart way, okay, or being very philosophical. Usually when people are very philosophical, people think, oh, this person is very wise. Wisdom just doesn't lie the way we speak, but it lies in our beliefs and in our actions. That's what we mean by hikmah. That's why they said the person who has hikmah is a person essentially has been given the tawfiq, this divine accord from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to act in the right manner. Another important benefit of knowing that Allah is Al-Hakeem is that we submit to the commandment of Allah. Whether that commandment be related to legislation, or whether that commandment would be related to fate, we accept the decree of Allah. What's the motto of the believer? سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We hear and we obey. We do not challenge the decision of Allah. We do not question it. We do not say, is this ruling really befitting for our time and age? No. All of the rulings of Allah are befitting for all times. So on that note, inshallah, I think we will end today's class, inshallah, and next week we will begin by looking at Al-Barr and Al-Kareem. I thought we would discuss it today, but Qaddar Allah. So until next week, inshallah.